Welcome. Good afternoon. A nice little crowd here showing up for our annual online college fair. Got Joshua Gibbs here with us. Hopefully you made it yesterday where you got to hear him a little presentation on how to choose a church when you go to college. Today he's going to talk to us about how to get ahead in college. Some great advice I've never been able to get anyone to take. I love the subtitle, Josh. And maybe there'll be some young people on here that will respond, challenge accepted. We'll see. And then if you're a parent, you definitely want to come tomorrow because he's going to talk about how you're actually not wrong about everything that your kids think you are. And if you're a kid, well, you decide whether you want to know that information or not. Um, good. All right. So today we have Joshua Gibbs here with us, and he's going to talk to us about how to get ahead in college. Great advice I've never been able to get anyone to take. And then after that, we will hear from Dr. Thomas Varicali about the beautiful Belmont Abbey College, where two of my kids happen to have attended. So I will turn the spotlight over to Mr. Gibbs, and we're recording. All right, Josh. I guess should I introduce you more thoroughly than that?
I don't mind introducing myself.
Okay.
It's I don't mind telling people two things about me. My name is Joshua Gibbs. I'm the director of the Classical Teaching Institute at the Ambrose School in Meridian. And if you are at all impressed by anything I say today and would like to hear more from me, you can come to our spring literature retreat at the end of next month. We're going to be reading and discussing the Purgatorio together for 2 days. It's going to be a good time. I am here to talk about how to get ahead in college, and this is a talk that I've given to students many times over the years, and I joke that I've never been able to get anyone to take me up on the offer, and I have checked. Obviously, I haven't done a complete and thorough search of every single graduate I've ever had, but I have a large number of ongoing acquaintances and friendships with former students, and from time to time I check to see if this one particular lecture that I gave back in high school has ever been capitalized on, and I've got 0 takers so far. So this talk is about getting ahead in college, and if you're familiar with my work, you might think that this talk can't possibly be in earnest, but I totally swear it is. I really do want to talk about getting ahead in college, getting the most out of college, getting the most for all of the money that you're going to spend in college. I don't want anyone to waste their money in going to college. And that's going to mean doing college. It's going to mean going to college, attending college in a very particular way. So I find that there are a lot of graduates or attendees and graduates of classical Christian schools whose understanding of academia is overly shaped by their high school experience. And thus they arrive on college campuses expecting a different sort of situation than the one that they get. So there's plenty of graduates from classical schools who go to college thinking, if I just keep my head down and get good grades, it will all go well for me. So I'm nose to the grindstone. I'm going to college. I'm not going to college to party. And they make these oaths to themselves. I'm not going to get married until after I graduate. I'm not going to college to find a spouse. I'm not going to hook up. I'm not going to get drunk. I am going to college to learn. And so I'm going to show up and I'm going to do all the classes. I'm going to get all the grades, and it's going to go well for me. Which is not true. That's a terrible plan for getting ahead in college. And perhaps you're not expecting me to say that at this point. I hope I come across in a somewhat fatherly way. And what you want to hear is, be chaste in college. be virtuous in college and it will all go well for you. Well, I don't actually think that's the case. And if you're confused at this point, it's because the framework that you have for what college is and what the point of college is not wrong. It's just underformed. So first piece of advice I'm going to give you, probably not going to take. It's not advice that I take. Whenever people recommend books to me, I almost never read them. So I'm going to recommend a book to you right now that you're not going to read because no one ever takes book recommendations. But my recommendation to you is to read Paul Fussell's book, Class, really just for the chapter on American universities in there. To read, it's a wonderful book. It's an insulting book. It's a highly revelatory book, but the chapter on American colleges is amazing. So if you're planning on spending $100,000 on college, spend $8 buying a used copy of Paul Fussell's book, Class, which was written in 1983. And it's not actually about class, like going to class. It's just about the American class system. There is a chapter on college and what people think college is versus what it actually is. And Paul Fussell is going to back up everything that I have to say, even though I've been giving this lecture for longer than I've been familiar with Paul Fussell's book. Suffice to say for now that what Fussell argues in that book is that the idea that college is worth the money in itself for the classes alone, that the classes alone at college justify the price of college, the work that you put into college, is either no longer true or it was never true to begin with. These days, 1/4 of all the unemployed people in this country have college degrees. So there are millions of unemployed people who went to college, probably did well in college, probably did okay in college. If you go to college with the idea that merely paying attention in class and getting good grades will be sufficient, you're going to miss out on what most people understood to be, if not the greater point of college, at least an equal point of going to college apart from the classes, which is to form meaningful professional connections with people out there in the world. I'm not talking about friendships. I'm talking about professional acquaintances. And if you go to college and spend all the money and all the time on the classes and the grades, but you do not form meaningful professional acquaintances and forge professional relationships, you have wasted your money. I'm not saying that the learning was all for nothing. I'm not saying that the learning was pointless, but the money that you have spent on college was not well spent. I don't mean that you haven't learned anything. I mean, you haven't gotten all that you can for your money. Now, this idea is offensive to a lot of young people because young people, as Aristotle says in Rhetoric, are fonder of their friends and their companions than older people are because they like spending their days in the company of their friends. And they have, here's the key moment. Young people have not yet come to value either their friends or anything else by their usefulness to themselves. And so the idea that you need to go off to college to form useful acquaintances is offensive to a lot of young people's sensibilities. It would have been offensive to my sensibilities if you had told me this at 18. It would have seemed selfish, this idea of going off to college to create professional connections. No, I'm not going to do that. That's using other people. But the older you get, the more people use you, and you're glad to be used because you're glad to be useful. And the older you get, the less you need some kind of pure, simple, undiluted friendship to exist between you and someone that you relate to. You're okay using other people for their functionality and returning that as well. And you feel good to help people, whether you're going to form some kind of long-lasting bond with them or not. That when somebody comes to you in a state of desperation and you can help them and you're never going to see them again, you don't feel used, you feel useful. So I think that this is the kind of thing that you become acquainted with, this idea, this feeling, the satisfaction with being useful is something that occurs as you get older. But if you don't have that vision when you go off to college, you have this idea that you're just going to learn a whole lot and that's going to be worth the time and the money that you've spent. Now, I tend to think that classically educated students are uniquely ill-suited to understand these realities of college because they've learned a lot in high school. High school is not like college. High school is not really about forming useful, helpful professional connections. You certainly can, but I wouldn't say that that's the point of high school. I always tell my own daughters, it's more important that you impress your teachers than that you impress your classmates. But that's not suggesting that you go to school to perform or to create useful professional connections. When you go to college, you have to be creating those kind of connections if you want to get your money's worth. By which I mean you want to get everything out of college. You want to get ahead in college. College itself is not going to help you get ahead. You have to use college in a particular way if you want to get ahead. So merely going to college, not special enough in itself such that the classes justify the cost and the time. You have to do something more. So I'd like to sort of boil this down to three things to do in college to get ahead. And these are incredibly banal. I know. I think the banal nature of these things that I would commend to you to do in college are what make them seem unbelievable to students. Like, that's not going to work. That's not going to get me anywhere. If I want to get anywhere in college, I have to be brilliant. I have to get a 4.0. But the things that I would tell you to do in college to get ahead are rather simple. Anyone can do them. They don't require they don't require trickery. They don't require dishonesty. They don't even require what I would think of as a lot of very difficult, hard work. They do require certain sacrifices, though. It requires a different way of looking at college. So if you want to get ahead in college, here's my three pieces of advice. First, go to class, number one. Second, sit in the front row of class. And third, learn something about what your professors do outside of class. Know something about your professors. So these three things. I know it's so simple. Go bathe in the Jordan 7 times and you'll be healed. Oh, that can't possibly work. My father, would you not have done some great thing if that's what the prophet had required? Why will you not do this simple thing? So here's my 3 simple things for getting ahead in college. Go to class, sit in the front row, learn something about your professors from outside of class. Now, here's what I mean by this. First of all, go to class. You will be tempted to not go to class. You will be tempted to despise 101 classes, basic classes, classes where there's no attendance required. And one of those first things that classical graduates think when they show up on college campuses is they look at all of the jokey classes, the classes that have really low standards. And it's easy to grow to despise the act of college and to reduce college to just doing enough to pass. And you think, oh, I can pass this class without showing up. Therefore, there's no point in showing up. Well, yeah, you can pass the class without showing up. There might be some classes where you can pass doing a minimum, but you're not on college to pass classes. That's not the ceiling of what you're attempting to accomplish on college classes. You're trying to form meaningful connections as well. And you can't form meaningful connections by skipping class. So go to class, even if it's a dinky class, even if it's a dumb class, even if you don't respect the professor, make a habit of going to class. And I also say this because you will probably, if you go to a decent high school, you will have contempt for certain college classes for setting the bar so low. And it's possible for those classes to actually be more difficult than you think in the beginning. And for the first week, attendance isn't taken. They seem dinky. You disrespect them. and you find yourself with a D by the time finals week rolls around, and you're thinking, how did this happen? This is such an easy class. It was such a dumb class. How did my grade get this low? And it's because skipping classes is a problem that kind of accrues. It grows. It's hard to contain after it gets started. So you might think of going to classes like the seal that you don't want to break. Go as long as you can without skipping a class, even if you're enrolled in classes where they don't take roll. Second, sit in the front row. Again, don't assume that keeping your head down and doing your work will be enough. If you're not making meaningful connections in college, or if you're not planning on making meaningful connections in college, don't go. The learning itself will not justify the expense. So you should go to your classes. You should get good grades. I'm not encouraging you to be some kind of flattering social climber, but you shouldn't assume that getting good grades will justify the expense. The better the college you go to, the more true this is. So sit in the front row. Sit in the front row to be a known person. You want to be a known entity in your class. Every class, and this is true in high school, this is true in college too, every class has students who make themselves a presence and students who don't make themselves a presence. Make it a goal of getting your profs to know your name and call you by your name by the end of the second week in class. One great way of doing that is sending an email to the professor and then following up in person so that it connects the name that he's got with the face that he's got. If the professor knows your name, the professor will be more likely to talk to you. If you impress your college professors, not merely by writing decent papers, but by being an interested and interesting person to them, you are far more likely to get invitations to things that only college professors can gatekeep. They're more likely to nominate you for prizes if they know who you are. They're more likely to give you letters of introduction if they know who you are, to give you the email address of somebody famous that they know, to put you in touch with people that you want to know that are outside of the college. And this, before you can get there, though, the professors have to know you before they can recommend you. So make yourself a known entity, a known quantity in your classes. If you're going to sit in the front row, you need to dress in such a way that you don't feel embarrassed to sit in the front row. So there's no dress code in college. You walk around a college campus and there's plenty of kids in their pajamas, and they sleepily wander into class and they sit in the back. Dress in such a way that you don't feel embarrassed walking in front of everyone, being seen in front of everyone, and sitting in the front row. So those two things are connected. Sit in the front row, get as close to the professor as you can, and be a known entity, and dress in a way that matches, dress in a way that's not going to prohibit you or keep you from sitting in the front row. Third and finally, nothing is more likely to get you, a professor to notice you more than you noticing the professor. So you got to show respect in order to get respect. Most college professors have public careers outside of their classrooms. They're writing journal pieces. They're writing articles for places that they're publishing online. They have a podcast. Most professors have written a book. Know something, learn something about your professor's life outside of class, and let them know that you're familiar enough with their work to take the lessons that they give you in class personally. So establish some kind of personal connection. Like make it clear that you take your professors seriously and that you take them personally, and they will take you seriously and they will take you personally as well. And these are three things that you can use to forge the kind of professional connections and to get other people to help you forge the professional connections that make all that time and money spent in college worthwhile. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Josh. That was great. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for sharing that. That was good advice. I appreciate that. let's hopefully you'll get some feedback maybe that somebody did it. Somebody sat in the front row. Somebody dressed appropriately. Somebody got to know their teachers. All right. On that note, we will move to Dr. Thomas Varicalli. He's from Belmont Abbey College, and he's going to talk to us, I think, about the college or about the honors college at Belmont Abbey College. And I don't know if you're going to sneak in anything about the master's program, but I'll leave that all to you. This is Dr. Thomas Varicalli, a friend of mine, and head of the honors college there at Belmont Abbey, a regular attendee at CiRCE conferences or events where CiRCE is at. And he's going to talk to you about the college. So, and we'll take questions at the end, right? So you'll kind of give a overview, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. So if you guys have any questions about the college, the honor college, then we will take those. You can put them in the chat as we go or whatever, but I'll save them till the end unless you see one you want to answer right away. All right, it's all yours, sir. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Bianco, and thank you, Mr. Gibbs, for that lovely talk. I agree with everything that Mr. Gibbs said. It was really, really thorough, and you'd be wise to listen to him. So I am here to talk about Belmont Abbey College, the greatest college in the country that I love with all my heart. I was an alum of Belmont Abbey. I graduated in 2011, and then 11 years after receiving my doctorate and teaching at Texas State for 6 years, they hired me back, and so I get to teach at my alma mater. So Belmont Abbey is about to celebrate its 150th anniversary. Belmont Abbey was established in April of 1876 when two monks, or one monk and two students from Richmond, Virginia, came down and had class on the very day that they came to the land that Belmont Abbey is currently on. So we currently have about 1,500 students on campus. We are a Roman Catholic institution. We have a beautiful basilica that dates back to 1892 with funds donated by St. Catherine Drexel herself. We have one of the most beautiful collegiate grottos on campus, a beautiful adoration chapel near the dorms, a cemetery where you can see 6 generations of glorious Benedictine history, and we are a pro-life campus. So we have a house for women who chose life. They're able to raise their child up until the age of 2 while she finishes her college degree. As I said, there are about 1,500 undergraduates at Belmont Abbey. Belmont Abbey has over 30 different majors. Our bread and butter is, of course, the humanities. So we have majors in philosophy, theology, history, English. I oversee the great books major. So if you're interested in classical education, we have a major specifically directed to great books. We also have business, finance, sports management. We have a legendary biology department that has over a 90% track record of getting students into medical school, veterinary school, or dentistry school. There's an entire wall on the second floor of the science building that is dedicated to the publications of alums of Belmont Abbey. We also have a nursing program. We're one of the few Cardinal Newman approved schools to have a nursing program at the Abbey. We have a hospital on campus. It's a 52-bed hospital on campus through the Caramount network, and our students are able to intern and to volunteer at the hospital as well. Another notable major would be our psychology major. Psychology can be one of the more secular fields that can quite be hostile to the faith. And we have practitioners in our psychology major who are able to integrate Christian truths with psychology. Many of them have family practices. And so if you're interested in studying psychology through a faith perspective, Belmont Abbey is, of course, the school for you. Tuition at the Abbey is $22,500. And most students do get scholarships, so it's less than $22,000. With room and board, you should always add somewhere between $10,000 and $15,000 for dorms and meal plans regardless of where you go. But Belmont Abbey is by far one of the cheapest Christian conservative schools in the country. Very few conservative Catholic or Christian schools have our price point. There are over 30 different student clubs on campus. These range from a very active student government to political clubs like the College Republicans. But then there are clubs on movies, and there's a hiking club. There is a crocheting club. There are a variety of Bible studies on campus. There's a pro-life club. There are all these different clubs centered on student interests. And if there's a club that doesn't, if you have an interest where we don't currently have a club, it's very easy to create a club on campus. We're a Division II campus. That means, on the one hand, Belmont Abbey is not going to be on TV, but at the same time, several of our students do have ambitions to be coaches, to work in sports after they graduate. We have over 30 different sports teams on campus, 15 for guys, 15 for women. And those run the gamut of baseball, softball, basketball, track and field, cross country, lacrosse, field hockey. We do have a Division I rugby team that's actually quite good. We beat a lot of Division I schools, including UNC Chapel Hill. But then we have wrestling and cheerleading. We have cycling and a variety of other sports as well. We have the oldest theater troupe in the state of North Carolina. It's 142 years old, and it's a theater troupe that does a Shakespeare every year. So this year, next month, they're doing Coriolanus. And then I think the following year, they're planning to do Richard II. Every year, they do at least one musical. So they've done Guys and Dolls in Oklahoma, and it is very family friendly musicals at that. Last year they did 1776 for the election. They do 2 plays every semester. Our student body demographics are as follows. We are a majority male school, which is very uncommon these days. We are 54% male and 46% female. We believe in single-sex dorms at Belmont Abbey, so there are dorms only for men, only for women. The visitation hours are as follows. Men can visit the female dorms and vice versa from noon to midnight, but doors have to be open. When we look at the religious affiliation, Belmont Abbey is a very proud Catholic college. You will see crucifixes in all the rooms. You'll see the monks walking around. But North Carolina was traditionally one of the most Protestant Protestant states in our country. It's only about 50% of the student body is Catholic. 50% is Protestant Christian, Eastern Orthodox, or some other variant within Christianity. There are 2 major reasons why people come to Belmont Abbey. The first would be faith, that Belmont Abbey is a very religious, very conservative environment. And then the second reason would be sports. If there is a potential third reason why someone would come to the Abbey, it is the Honors College, which I oversee as Dean of the Honors College. So the Honors College has been around for 8 years, and it is our classical education great books program. It's designed to be a college within a college. The honors curriculum provides a different core curriculum from Belmont Abbey. It's a curriculum that centers on the study of the great books, from Homer and Plato all the way to the great novels and encyclicals of the 20th century. Every student receives a minor in great books and their entire core in great books. So if it takes 40 classes to graduate college, 25, a clear majority of your classes, regardless of major, would be in the Honors College. But then that would leave 15 classes or 45 credits to major in whatever you would like. On the one hand, if you want to major in great books and you want to do every single class in the great books, that's track number one, all 120 credits, all 40 classes in great books. Option two is to major in great books by having 30 of your 40 classes be in great books, but then perhaps you can squeak a double major in history or English, or do a series of different minors in various fields. But the most common track is track number three, in which students major in a traditional major, like biology, psychology, business, theology, philosophy, history, English, while still having that great books core curriculum. And so on the one hand, if you compare us to schools like St. John's in Annapolis or Santa Fe, or St. Thomas Aquinas or Wyoming Catholic, you can go whole hog and do your entirety of your collegiate education in great books. But we also give you an option that those schools do not. We give you the option of having a majority great books education, but still majoring in a traditional field. And that's why our students, our graduates of the Honors College, are in law school, they're in medical school, they're working for a variety of banks and insurance companies. They're pursuing graduate degrees in psychology or counseling or creative writing in English. Our graduates are doing a variety of different things precisely because they have had different majors while still having that common core of having read their Homer and their Plato and their Aristotle, their Augustine, their Aquinas, their scripture, and Dante and Shakespeare as well. When we look at the core curriculum in the Honors College, it's structured as follows. The first year is the study of the Greeks and the Romans. The second year is then dedicated to the study of Christianity and early modernity. So the first semester of your sophomore year, you study the Bible, Augustine and Aquinas, the doctors of the church, and then in your second semester, you study the American founding, early modern philosophy, Hobbes, Locke, Francis Bacon, René Descartes. In your third year, your junior year, the first semester would center on 19th and 20th century thinkers, Hegel, Karl Marx, the papal encyclicals, Friedrich Hayek, Nietzsche, Camus. But then what's unique is we then return back to Christianity that second semester of junior year, so that Christianity is essentially bookmarking the 2 semesters dedicated to modernity. And in that Christian response to modernity, you revisit scripture, you read Dante, and then you read how various theologians and philosophers in the 19th and 20th century respond to modernity. And in those courses, you'd be reading works by Soren Kierkegaard or John Henry Newman, St. Edith Stein, Dietrich Bonhoeffer, C.S. Lewis, Cardinal Ratzinger, these great Catholic and Protestant thinkers who are trying to address how a Christian ought to respond to modernity. And then in your fourth year, your senior year, we have a series of seminars dedicated to great questions in the 21st century using classical, medieval, and modern texts. And in that sequence, perhaps the most important class is a class on love, friendship, and marriage. Class that's always taught in the last semester because we are a Christian institution. We do care about your vocations, whether it's marriage, single or being single or the religious life, or what your professional vocation would be. We want to make sure that you're exposed to classical, Christian, and modern interpretations on what the good life entails in marriage, in friendship, in beatitude with God. There are a couple of perks that come with being in the Honors College. All honors students receive a $9,000 scholarship that is renewable every year, so long as you maintain a 3.25 GPA. We attend a variety of cultural events as a college. So we've seen symphonies by Mozart, Mendelssohn, Brahms, and Tchaikovsky. And these cultural events are free. They're part of the honors budget, minus any parking costs in the city of Charlotte. We're patriots in the honors college, so every once in a while we see baseball games. We are celebrating the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence through a 10-part faculty lecture series on various documents concerning the American founding on the theme of natural rights. Last November, we hosted Michael Knowles from the Daily Wire. Last October, we hosted Cardinal Gerhard Mueller, who was the former prefect for the Congregation of the Doctrine of the Faith. In January, with our friends from CiRCE, we hosted our second annual Classical Education Job Fair, which brought over 25 employers, most of them high schools, to come to campus so that they can hire our students. One of the goals of the Honors College, aside from teaching the tradition for the sake of the tradition, aside from, of course, teaching the true, the good, and the beautiful, we do also want to become the primary seat of classical education in the American South. And so we really do want to be the hub. We want to be the place that teaches the future teachers of the United States who will be teaching classically. So we're very proud of our job fair. And then we have a variety of lectures throughout the semesters. We host a dance. We host a swing dance in the fall that's led by the students, and a honors ball in the spring. The faculty often host the students at their houses for bonfires or parties. I had the senior class at my house last Friday. It was an utter blast. We traditionally have a Halloween bonfire with a competition for the best costume. And then there are just a variety of impromptu cultural events that are either organized by faculty or the students. I think the faculty do a good job caring about the students. We do get to know the students' names by the first, if not the beginning of the second week. Classes at the Abbey and the Honors College are pretty small, usually between 10 to 15 people sitting around a table discussing the great books. Your professors will care for you. There is a pastoral quality to the faculty in the Honors College without, though, being parents, that we will care for you, but we will challenge you to be excellent in your classes, but also in every aspect of your lives. And I think the faculty has done such a wonderful job at that. The students over the last few years have really developed very strong and deep, meaningful friendships. I think I've attended 7 weddings over the last 2 years of one honors student marrying another honors student. No promises, guys, but it is in the ether, it is in the air. We've had several students enter into religious life. One of the graduates of the class of 2025 is applying for the convent. One of our graduates in 2023 just joined our Benedictine monastery on campus as a novice. But there is, I think, a very healthy masculinity, fraternity on campus among the men in the Honors College. They challenge each other to be better, to treat their girlfriends well, to be respectful of their parents, to remain physically fit, to remain strong academically, to be faithful to their studies. And of course, there's a great community among the women in the Honors College too. In addition to these cultural events, in addition to the amazing culture that exists within the Honors College, There are also two wonderful opportunities for the sophomores and the juniors. So at the conclusion of the sophomore year, there is a beach retreat at Hilton Head Island where we rent two houses, a block away from the beach, one for the guys, one for the girls. And we'll discuss for about 3 to 4 hours a day Shakespeare's Tempest. And then students are free to enjoy the island, swim. It's illegal to feed the alligators at Hilton Head Island, but they at least enjoy looking at the alligators from afar. I drive the 15-passenger van to Mass if people want to go to daily Mass. There's a rosary on the beach. The guys cook for the girls cook for the guys. It's a really, really fun time. Great capstone to being halfway done with college. And then at the conclusion of your junior year, there is the ability to study abroad in Ireland. So we have a 4-week Ireland trip in late May to late June. So it will not affect your classes. That semester is the summer semester. So let's suppose you major in biology or elementary education or theology. Your classes won't be disrupted because your classes will have been over. And so everyone can go on the Ireland trip. It costs $6,000. The Honors College pays $3,500, and then students are expected to pay the remaining $2,500. But that does include the flights, and it includes most meals, but of course, not all meals. It's a great opportunity. Home base is in Limerick, and our students do travel Ireland widely. They see the beautiful museums in Dublin, they visit the churches, and they really do get a good feel for the entirety of the island. Belmont Abbey is a place that I genuinely love. We were so honored to have Dr. Bianco's child come to the Honors College, and I would love for you to visit. Be prepared. It's one of the most beautiful campuses you'll see. It looks like what a college is supposed to look like. Some of the old stories Belmont Abbey was in the 19th and throughout the 20th century a very poor college, and so the monks would make the bricks themselves. And so when you look at the walls of our buildings, you can see some of the fingerprints of the monks who built the bricks and helped build the buildings. And it's a beautiful testament to our monks who have dedicated their lives to building and sustaining such a campus that is marked by just the love of God. I think I've been told by so many people, and I feel it as well, where one feels the Holy Spirit, one feels the presence of God on our campus. It is a campus that I think God loves particularly very much. It is a campus that is, of course, open to all faiths. I know I've emphasized a lot about Catholicism, but we were the first Catholic school to invite the Reverend Billy Graham in the early 1960s. That was an easy one for us. He was raised in Charlotte, and we're only 10 minutes away from Charlotte. But we've always had a strong ecumenical bent, and there are a variety of churches, of Protestant churches of almost every single denomination within a 5 to 10 mile radius of campus. There's an Antiochian church, there's a Russian Orthodox church that several of our students also attend as well. If you want to test drive the Abbey, I recommend coming to SCOLA, our high school great books program. This year, our high school summer program will take place from July 5th to July 11th on the theme of love and friendship, a cornerstone theme in the Honors College. In the morning, students will read Shakespeare and Plato, probably some Flannery O'Connor. And then in the afternoon, they'll hike mountains. They'll white water raft at the Whitewater Center. There's an evening in downtown Belmont. We'll watch a movie, perhaps reenact one of the Shakespeare plays. And there's a talent show, which is always one of my highlights there. But it's a great way to test out Belmont Abbey. My unsolicited advice for the juniors and seniors watching is if you are interested in a school, if that school offers a summer program, those summer programs are often very good indicators of what college at that camp is like. And so I do recommend you visit several of them, including Scola. Scola this year is about $750, and that is for uh, six nights, 7 days, and that includes almost all meals, with the exception of 2 or 3 dinners when we go out. As Dr. Bianco said, the Honors College not only has our amazing undergraduate program and our summer camp, but we also have a Master's of Arts in Classical and Liberal Education. So if there are any parents watching, if you sort of feel the urge to go back to school, we offer an online master's program that studies the Western canon. Our emphasis is quite heavy on the ancients and the early Christians. So there'd be a lot of Plato, a lot of Aristotle. We have partnered with the CiRCE Institute. So if you've completed the apprenticeship, 12 credits will be transferred from the apprenticeship into our program, so that if you have completed the apprenticeship, you should be able to finish the master's program in about a year. We have a similar partnership with the Institute for Catholic Liberal Education, ICLE, and this new organization called Veterum Sapientia Institute, which is a Latin pedagogy institute that emphasizes spoken Latin. We have an agreement with them too. It has been such a pleasure to talk about Belmont Abbey to all of you, and I'll be happy to field any questions that pop up. I see one already in the chat. Thank you, Emily. So do most of your students come to you from Catholic high schools? It's a great question. We have several students who do come from Catholic high schools, but I'd say the most common student is now a homeschooler in the Honors College. I would say about half the students have at one point been homeschooled in some part of their lives. So some students were homeschooled, let's say, in elementary or middle school, and they went to a traditional high school thereafter. But for the most part, our students are either homeschooled, they come from a classical school, or they come from a Catholic school. But I think it's homeschool, classical, then Catholic in that order. We do get public school students from time to time, and some of our best students did come from public school background, and they're just hungry to have a more rigorous classical education. We don't expect our students to have a tremendous amount of knowledge about classical education coming into our program. You know, we can teach you the Greek gods and some of the mythology as we go. And so if you are in a public school, or if you are in a Catholic school that wasn't very classical, or a Protestant school that wasn't very classical, we will meet you where you are, and we'll teach Homer and Virgil and Plato to people who come from any educational background. All right, Emily has a follow-up. Would it be realistic to do the master's program without having done the apprenticeship, or is it best to do some sort of prep first? Could a mom work on the master's while also homeschooling one child, or is that unrealistic? All right, so Dr. Bianco, I have a question for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
The apprenticeship usually takes 3 years, correct?
Yes.
All right. So if you haven't started the apprenticeship yet, it's probably best to wait until you have completed half of the apprenticeship, because if you start the master's program and the apprenticeship simultaneously, you'll finish the master's classes a year and a half before you finish the apprenticeship, and then you'll just be sort of sitting there. And of course, we don't want to take any business away from CiRCE, right? Right, Dr. Bianco? We
That's
don't want to take
right.
anyone away from the apprenticeship. We do have our own pedagogy classes that you could take if you really wanted um, to graduate in a year or year and a half. But I think the apprenticeship is it will always provide a fuller picture. Um, so I do think that if you're in your second year of the apprenticeship or your third year, feel free to apply and start. But if you haven't started yet, it's probably best to wait. And could a mom work on the master's while also homeschooling one child? Yes. Several of our students do the master's program part-time. The way in which our master's program is structured is all our classes are 8-week classes that meet for about 2 hours once a week, usually from 7 to 9 Eastern Standard Time. And so, as a mom, you would need to have, maybe 2.5 hours blocked with the babysitter or a spouse or whoever takes care of your kid for that period of time. But I would recommend for someone who has one child to take it one class at a time. Um, if you do part-time, that's still 2 classes a semester because you're doing one in the first session of 8 weeks and then one in the second week, the second 8-week section. And if you do 2 a semester, you'll be done within 2.5 years. And we have a very proud graduate of both the apprenticeship and the master's program in the chat, one of my favorite students. So thank you very much for your kind words, Krista. All right. Well, guys, I love answering questions, so keep them coming. Um, are they allowed to unmute themselves, or should they, for the most part,
That's
do?
fine for me. Fine with me.
All right. Well, we got some chaos here. Let's see if. Okay. Thank you, Randon. So, could you tell me about the finance program? All right. Well, our business major is the most popular major on campus, and our finance program is within the business department, although you can get your degree in finance. Belmont Abbey is 15 minutes away from Charlotte, and Charlotte is widely considered to be one of the major centers of banking in the United States. That both Wells Fargo and Bank of America have a very significant presence in Charlotte. That has allowed our business program to develop, strong ties with Wells Fargo, with Bank of America, and some of the more local banks, or regional banks like Fifth Third, which also has a presence in Charlotte. And so many of our students in the finance program do have a variety of internships in Charlotte. It's very good for anyone in a business or a finance background to get an internship in college. Several graduates of the Abbey have pretty successful careers in Charlotte. One of the things that I do love is many of our alums do choose to stay in the area. And so there is an Abbey network of alums, especially recent alums who like helping other students find jobs. In the Honors College, when we look, the Honors College has only had 4 years of placements, but we have Honors College students working at Wells Fargo, at Vanguard, and a variety of accounting firms in the area. All right, guys, keep them coming. Let's see if you can stump me. I love talking about the Abbey. Dr. Bianco, what do you think is the hardest question you can ask me?
Oh, God, that's hardest question I can ask you. Why is Plato superior to Aristotle? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I don't know if I necessarily agree with the premise of the question. I think one of perhaps the tensions between the Honors College and Dr. Bianco is several of the professors might be on Team Aristotle there. But the case for Plato would be that um, historically, it has perhaps been easier to integrate Plato with Christianity over time. And when we look at the church fathers, when we look at St. Augustine, when we look at both the Eastern and Western fathers, uh, Plato and that Neoplatonist tradition has always been supple tools in the defense of Christianity, in showing pagans and converts the reasonableness of Christianity because of the beauty of the forms, because of Plato's concern for transcendence. And there are a variety of these very mysterious passages in the Platonic dialogues of Socrates, you know, gravitating to a pretty staunch criticism of the Greek gods, a pretty staunch criticism of polytheism. And then there is the possibility, I'm not going to make too bold of a claim here, but by showing the problems of polytheism, does Plato provide a path to monotheism? Plato is worth reading for the sake of Plato, but there has been that long Christian tradition of integrating Plato with Christianity. That Plato can help illuminate Christian doctrines, even though, of course, revelation is greater than Plato. We should emphasize that. Revelation is greater than Plato.
I agree.
Yeah. All right, Emily, wonderful. Can you talk about the living arrangements there? So how are the dorms structured and where do students live? So we have at least 8 or 9 different dorms on campus. The freshmen live in 2 halls primarily called Paleth and O'Connell. They are the cheapest dorms. They're also the oldest dorms on campus. But in O'Connell and in Paleth, the freshman dorms, there are 4 rooms in a suite, and then there would be 2 people to a room. So a student at the Abbey is only going to have 1 roommate traditionally. There'll be 8 men or 8 women to a suite where they share a bathroom. I think the dorms at the Abbey are bigger than other colleges. I think Paleth and O'Connell are spacious in that regard. As I said, these dorms are single-sexed, so that women only stay with women, men only stay with men. And there are those visitation hours where men and women cannot be in those dorms in the morning. And when men and women are in each other's dorms in the afternoon, the doors have to be open. We have an open door policy. After freshman year, the students will get to pick their dorms, with seniors and juniors having priority, so that dorms are chosen by seniority. And we have a variety of newer dorms on campus. So since I've graduated in 2011, we've added 5 new dorms. Belmont Abbey has doubled in size since I was a student. So we have St. Benedict, St. Scholastica, St. Michael's, St. Gertrude, and St. Gregory. Those are all new dorms. And those sort of look like Hampton Inns, where they have the fob in order to get in for security. They have elevators, and they're well-designed buildings. Some have roommates, some have single dorm rooms, but almost all the dorms, people will have at least 1 roommate. I should add, for the freshman experience, for high school seniors coming into freshman year, one important point I forgot to mention would be Res Life, I think, does a fairly good job pairing students up with other students. And students will fill out a form with questions like, do you go to bed early? Do you prefer to have a roommate of your particular religion? Do you listen to loud music? And Res Life, I think, does a good job pairing the right people with the right people. We have a remarkably friendly Res Life staff. All right. So also, how do students do generally who come there after a public and definitely non-classical school education for high school? I think everyone does fairly well. I don't see a tremendous amount of difference between the classical school students and the public school students, because the classical school students, even the students who've had that classical education for 12, 13 years, they're learning things that are new in our courses, that college classes are able to touch upon themes that even some of the best high schools aren't able to touch upon. So, for example, when we have our Homer Virgil class in the fall, we spend 5 weeks on the Iliad and the 5 weeks on the Odyssey, and we read it in its entirety, cover to cover. And so we're not, there is the tendency of some schools to just read, let's say, book 1, 16, 18, 22, 24 of the Iliad. And by going through the Iliad more slowly, by reading those chapters that aren't as common in these anthologies, we're able to have, I think, a deeper understanding of Hector, deeper understanding of Achilles, and all those other great characters in the Iliad. It's all going to depend upon whether or not that student wants to learn. And when I look at the freshman class, some of the most eager students to learn are the public school students. The hardest course, I think, for students who come from public school tends to be Latin. We require in our freshman year 2 classes of either beginning Latin or ancient Greek. And Latin is spoken. We use the Orberg method of spoken Latin. And for some students, that is very difficult because they're learning a language differently. And then there are, of course, some students who did have 2, 3, or even 4 years with Wheelock or Henley or even Ecce Romani, and they can't speak the language. And we also use ecclesiastical pronunciation, not ancient. And so that sometimes is what trips up some of the more classically minded students, that they have to pronounce words somewhat differently. And that actually creates somewhat of an even playing field too. Can a community college student who is homeschooled with a Christian classical education transfer with an AA degree in accounting to Belmont Abbey's degree in finance? Yes. Yes, you can. So Belmont Abbey will accept up to 90 credits from a different institution. The last 30 credits does have to come from Belmont Abbey, and a majority of your classes in that major have to come from the Abbey as well. So if you are coming from a program that has, if you're coming in with an AA degree, so that's somewhere between 60 and 66 credits, you should be able to graduate in 2 years from Belmont Abbey, God willing. Now, that student wouldn't be able to do the Honors College because the Honors College is a 4-year commitment. But, you'd be able to do a minor in great books if you wanted to do accounting and still read Plato, Aristotle, Augustine, Aquinas, Dante, and Shakespeare. And I'd be very happy to advise you on that if you want more information. But we would love to have you come to the Abbey. What translation of the Homer epics are used? Okay, this does vary from professor to professor. Some use Lattimore. Others use Fagles. One will do one Lattimore and then one Fagles. For the most part, Emily Wilson is not used. We believe that there are stronger translations than Emily Wilson for the most part. And Dr. Bianco was silent, right? All right, what else? What else? What else? Hmm. All right, Dr. Bianco, what's your second hardest question you got for me?
Tell us about the Basilica. I think that's my favorite part, or one of my favorite
Oh,
parts of the whole
sure.
campus.
So the basilica was designed in the last decade of the 19th century, and it's designed in with the with Noah's Ark in mind. So when you look at the ceiling, it's supposed to look like a bottom of a boat because one of the old Benedictine monks who designed it had been a sailor before he became a monk. So the basilica is the size of Noah's Ark, and it's smaller than you would think. You'd think with all the animals, it'd be bigger. Um, the outside follows sort of neo-Gothic architecture. So there are two large towers with three different bells. The bells ring every hour on the hour. Except at night, the townspeople don't like the bells ringing at night too much. We have in the basilica some of the most beautiful stained glass windows you'll come across. They were actually in the World's Fair in 1908, imported from Germany. It's a combination of stained glass and paint. So many of the stained glass windows deal with the most important saints that are in the Benedictine tradition. So St. Leo and St. Gregory, St. Bernard, St. Anselm, St. Gertrude, St. Walpurga, um, St. Maurice, and St. Placid, who were the first two disciples of St. Benedict, according to the life of St. Benedict by St. Gregory. Right. All right, so another great question. What can you do with a great books major? What have people done with the major? So the easiest thing to do with the Great Books major is teach. So 20% of our alumni in the last 4 years are teaching at a classical school all around the country, whether it's the Founders Schools in Texas or the Chesterton Schools. We've placed a variety of students at such schools. But the beautiful thing about the Great Books is the purpose of the Great Books is to live a well-ordered life. We have in mind in the Honors College that our students are going to engage in the active contemplative life. So they're going to contemplate, but they're going to be active. And our students who've majored in great books are in a variety of fields. Some of them are teaching, but then others have gone on to law school or med school. We have even one graduate who is a farmer right now. He's a butcher out in Western North Carolina. So our students, with great books, we have butchers, we have insurance salesmen, and we have classical educators. What does the ancient Greek language class look like? So we now have a major in Greek. The major, for the most part, is not as developed right now as it is in Latin. We're in the process of trying to encourage students to take upper-level Greek classes. But the beginning of the Greek major would, of course, be the traditional 101, 102 sequence. Then we have the intermediate 201, 202 sequence. And then in the 300 and 400 level classes, the Greek classes, for the most part, would center on the ancients and then the Eastern Christians, where there would be classes that where you would be translating the noble pagans, and then certain classes where you'd be translating Saint Athanasius and the great Eastern Church Fathers. What is your most popular common major? So in the Honors College, if we limit it to the 140 students in the Honors College, Great Books is the most common major. We have over 30 different majors in the Honors College. But then other popular majors would include theology, philosophy, psychology, again, because of our department's commitment to integrating psychology with Christian revelation. At Belmont Abbey as a whole, outside the Honors College, the most popular majors are business, sports management, nursing, psychology, and I'm forgetting the other one off the top of my head. All right. Well, Dr. Bianco, any concluding thoughts?
Well, I would just like to share how much I love Belmont Abbey, mostly because they invite me down there every year to give a talk to the Honors College, and anybody who's willing to let me talk and hear the sound of my own voice, I like. So I'm just kidding. But I bet we do have a good relationship. CiRCE Institute has a good relationship with Belmont Abbey College, and the proximity helps us to be able to be involved more with them. So I actually get to go down there tomorrow to talk to the Honors College kids. So I go down there at least once a year. I think Buck goes down there once in a while. Katarina's been down there. You guys have an event coming up in March that we'll be attending. Um, it's a great relationship. It's a great campus. It's beautiful. If you're afraid that you might end up going there and you don't want to, then don't go to the Scola thing, because that will sell you on it. It's quite beautiful. The basilica looming over the whole campus is a sight to behold. That baptismal font inside the basilica makes me cry every time I see it. Um, the and two of my kids went there. My middle child went there before the Honors College existed. Well, it was on a program, I guess, back then. And then my daughter was in the inaugural class of the Honors College, and I am very happy with what they got from Belmont Abbey College. And also Tom here, or Dr. Barricali here, is a great guy, and I'm glad that he's in the position he's in. So you're doing good work there. I appreciate it. And I appreciate there's quite a few of your students come to our church. And so I even get to hear from them and talk to them and keep up with what's going on. And so it's a lovely place. So I would encourage you to give it a look and attend that Scola event. And get to see what's happening there.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. I put my email address in the chat. If you have any questions about the Abbey, feel free to reach out to me. I love fielding questions. Not to brag, I'm an amazing host. So if you want to email me and come down and have lunch with our students or walk around campus, I'll spend the day with you, and we'll make you feel at home. All right. Well,
Very good.
thank you very much, everyone. It was such a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining us. And thank you, Dr. Barricali, for sharing, taking all the questions. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.